this meeting order. This is a meeting of the Planning Commission. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Eric Alteretti.
Here.
Phil Becerra.
Here.
Bruce Bauer. James Gartner.
Here.
Mark McLaughlin.
Here.
Beatrice Mendoza.
Here.
Lynette Verino.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. I did receive correspondence from Commissioner Bauer that he would be late this evening to the meeting. So do we just keep him as absent until he is present? Okay. Okay, please stand up and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. This is the time for public comments. If any member of the public has any public comments on non-agenda items, so any items that are not listed to be discussed tonight on the agenda, you may fill out a request to speak form with the secretary, and after introductions, you have 3 minutes to speak, unless an extension of time is granted by the chairperson. Does anyone have any public comments on any non-agendized items? Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to the consent calendar. Do you have a motion to approve items on the consent calendar?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We're moving on to the business calendar. And the next item is Commissioner Communication Disclosure. Do any commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to items on tonight's agenda? Okay, and there's none. We're going to move on to the public hearings, and I do want to make one adjustment to the order of the agenda items for tonight. We're going to move item number 3 into item number 1's place. And with that being said, if we could, so other than that, this is the time and place for the public hearing on,
Madam Chair,
yes.
I'm actually going to be recusing myself from this particular item. I've actually worked on the due diligence on this project a couple of years ago, and so I'm going to be recusing myself on this one.
Thank you, Commissioner Becerra. For the record, he'll be recusing. So this is public hearing on conditional use permit number 2016-35. If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please file a request to speak form with the Secretary. Comments are limited to 3 minutes unless an extension of time is granted by the chairperson. The action of the Planning Commission is final following consent of the City Council unless, if allowed by the Santa Ana Municipal Code, an appeal to the City Council is filed with the Clerk of the Council and a copy is sent to the Planning Department within 10 days from the date of the Commission's action, or unless set for public hearing by the City Council. So, staff will now make a presentation. Thanks, Vince.
Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Planning Commissioners. I'm going to go ahead and start my presentation while we figure out these little technical difficulties about the screen behind you there. I believe you all have access to the screen down here? Mm-hmm. Okay, great. There it goes. It'll take a minute to... So this item here before you this evening is the KidsWorks expansion project. KidsWorks currently exists at 1902 West Chestnut. They received entitlements back in... Sorry, Zumba wasn't part of the presentation there. They received their antennas back in 2004 for CEP for the building just to the east of them at 1902 West Chestnut. So this is an expansion project. So what they're looking to do, they've acquired another industrial building just to the west, similar size, a little over 10,000 square feet. They want to expand on that building, and they want to do interior and exterior improvements, tie the buildings together. And they're also going to be processing a lot merger via separate application that does not need to go before this body. So at the end of the day, in a few months, it'll be one single parcel. There's an aerial view of the building itself there in the center in red. It's currently zoned and general plan industrial, and it's surrounded by a combination of residential, both single family and multifamily, as well as industrial uses. Just directly to the north on the top there is the Santa Ana corporate yard. Here's a photo of the 1910 building. Here's a site plan. Again, the building on the left is the one that's currently occupied by KidsWorks. The one on the right in blue is the one that will be before you this evening here as CEP. Here's our floor plan. It's in your packet. You can see it a little better, but part of the plan is when they do the lot merger is interior improvements, take down the wall between the buildings and have it one consistent building where they can provide all of their child care, their learning, their teaching to the kids throughout for both buildings. Some of the improvements include some architectural improvements to the building as well to tie the buildings together, some entries, some canopies, and other little enhancements to make them all tied in as one unified project. And here's some color elevations of the project upon its completion. So the analysis here, the site meets the applicable standards for a child care facility, most importantly for parking. It's added increasing the amenity out there. It's a very valuable and very important use to the community there. It's very well used. They're actually bursting at the seams, which is why they're here this evening to add this additional building. So it's going to provide another amenity both to the residents who live in the residential community, as well as the industrial people who can drop their kids off for the after-school programs. They run programs all the way through pre-K up until 12th grade. And again, this project here is how it would meet their expansion goals, consisting with numerous goals and policies of our general plan. We put conditions on the project to ensure that it does not evolve into attractive nuisance out there. And I do want to add one condition, which I neglected to do in the report there, is assuming this project, the CEP gets approved tonight, once the lot merger is recorded, the old CEP 4-10 will be void, and we'll now have only one CEP over both projects. So this new one here will supersede the previous CEP. And all the conditions of approval are consistent with the one back in 04 and the one today. So you'll have just one CEP covering, which will eventually be one piece of property. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve the CEP as conditioned. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer them, as well as the Director of KidsWorks is here as well, and the architect.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of staff? Commissioner McLaughlin?
I thought I heard you say removal of the wall inside between the...
Yes.
Isn't that a load-bearing wall?
It probably is. It's an exterior wall, so yes, it is. And they've got engineers involved. They're submitting the plan check anytime now, and there's ways of doing it.
Okay.
There's ways to address it, and have to meet all the current building codes for that wall removal. Yeah.
As long as it's taken care of.
Permits, they're ready to go into plan check as soon as you give the authorization, and the building team will handle that, and the engineers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and open the public hearing on this item. If anybody would like to speak, now is the time. Okay, seeing none. Sir, did you want to speak on the KidsWorks project? Thank you. You fill out a, oh, I'm sorry. I do. Are you Ralph Hastings?
I am.
Thank you, sir. I apologize for not calling you up.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Ralph Hastings with RLH Architects in Brea. We are the architects of record. And I just wanted to mention the fact that we're here, and if you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer those for you.
Commissioner McLaughlin, do you have any questions? Thank you.
My answer.
Thank you.
sir. I have another speaker card for David Benavides. Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and come back to Commissioner questions, comments, or I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Alderete?
I'll move that we adopt a resolution approving CUP number 2016-35 as conditioned.
Second.
Any comments? Okay, I have a motion to second.
As amended with the additional condition that Vincent mentioned?
Oh,
Yes.
and this was the amendment to rescind the previous CUP and
Previous CUP,
incorporate into
right.
this.
So I'll put you as a second.
Agreed, Commissioner Alderman?
I'm good with that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good luck. Okay, well, then we're going to move on to item number 2. This is the public hearing for conditional use permit number 2016-12. And oh, I'm sorry. Are we switching the order, or are we just gonna move everything up? So we go back to, we'll do the original.
You can
one.
switch, I believe you said you were switching the order, so go ahead. There is no one in the audience for item number 1 anyway. so,
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll go and do number 2.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Up for discussion before you is conditional use permit 2016-12 to allow the after-hours operation of a retail market at 2626 North Bristol Street, Unit B. 7-Eleven is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to operate a retail market on a 24-hour basis. There's an existing retail market currently located at the site, which 7-Eleven is proposing to acquire, rebrand the store as a 7-Eleven, and operate on a 24-hour basis. Per Section 41-365.5H of the Santa Ana Municipal Code, retail markets that have or that occupy a tenant space less than 20,000 square feet are required to have a conditional use permit to operate between the hours of 12 midnight and 5 a.m. Here's the project site. The site's located in the Community Commercial Zoning District on the southwest corner of Bristol and Memory Lane. The site's surrounded by commercial and residential uses to the north and east, and single-family residential uses to the west and south. Here's a site plan. As you can see, the existing retail market is occupying the tenant space that's shaded in gray, which 7-Eleven is looking to occupy. Part of the project also includes site improvements to the site that include restriping the parking lot, new lighting in the parking lot, new 8-foot-high CMU block walls on the property line to the south and the west, and a new trash can enclosure. Here's a floor plan of the tenant space. It's approximately 2,260 square feet, and 7-Eleven is going to be constructing interior tenant improvements and is looking to operate under the existing conditional use permit from 1996 that allowed a Type 20 ABC license. And again, their hours are going to be 24-hour operation. Here's a photo of the site as it exists today. As you can see there on the left, the K&S Market occupying Unit B, and an existing laundromat to the right occupying Unit A. The after-hours operation will provide an additional service and convenience to the neighborhood. Code-applicable standards will ensure the facility will not become an attractive nuisance, and the proposed use will be in compliance with regulations and several goals and policies set forth in the general plan. Based on analysis provided within the report, staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 2016-12 as conditioned. We did receive a few questions from Commissioner Becerra regarding a previous application for a Type 21 ABC license at the site. In 2008, the then tenants of the space applied for a CUP to upgrade from a Type 20 to a Type 21. At that time, the application was denied by the Planning Commission. And the current hours of operation are from, the second question was about the hours of operation for the existing tenant. They currently operate from 9 a.m. till 11 p.m., Monday through Thursday, and Friday and Saturday they operate from 9 a.m. to 12 midnight. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Commissioner Becerra?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You'd mentioned in your presentation about new block walls. Are those the ones that actually are with the existing R1 properties to the, let's see, to the west and to the south?
That's correct.
Okay, so, but as far as any of the fencing that's on the property now, like near the building, between the building and those block walls, those won't be improved?
The gates are going to be improved. I think there was some damage to some, and then the one along the southern portion of the building where the current trash enclosure, there's some damage to a fence, some landscaping, and the trash enclosure. All those things will be fixed or repaired, and then a new trash enclosure constructed.
And so, because I went by there just today, so the trash enclosure looks like it's of some sort of block wall, and then you have kind of this mishmash of, looks like whatever was blown in through the wind, they kind of put up there as a wall or fence. So was there a reason why you guys are having them redo the trash enclosure? Is it just because of compliance, or?
Correct. Didn't meet current code, and then aesthetics, and then the material, like you were saying, it looks like it's been patched up over the years. It's not a consistent material. So that was part of the approval from development project review.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Aldereti?
Thank you. I had a couple of questions, or maybe it's one. I think the one area where I wasn't sure I understood the history, even though I was on the commission at the time, was the appeal was denied due to the census tract being over-concentrated. So what's changed between 2008 and 2016 that it's not over-concentrated?
Nothing has changed. The census tract is still over-concentrated, but this application doesn't involve a new ABC license. It's strictly for after-hours operation.
Okay. And that's it? Then that's what this is as well, correct?
No, they're only asking for the after hours. No, there's no alcohol, correct?
They're maintaining the type 20 that currently exists at the site, and they're applying for 24-hour operation.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have some questions about this. I know there's several other 7-Elevens in Santa Ana, and I know not all of them are open 24 hours. Would this be the first one in Santa Ana? I mean, I have here that I know, like Fairview First, Florida First, Center McFadden, the newest one that I can remember, Main and Civic Center. Which ones are 24 hours already?
There's a 7-Eleven that was recently approved about 2 months ago on Main and Sunflower that's 24 hours as well.
Ricardo, can I just ask for some clarification? On the lighting, is a plan for some additional lighting in the areas adjacent, like the north and south part of the property where there has potential for, I know right now there's kind of like, I guess we could call them alcoves, where people can kind of, sit in there or hide out there. Is part of the lighting plan for those areas as well, so we can deter people from?
Yes, all the lighting is
sitting in
going
those areas?
to, sorry. Yes, all the lighting is going to be per PD standards, so they're going to have to submit new photometrics and ensure all the areas, including those potential, kind of like you were saying, niches or alcoves adjacent to the building are well lit.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and open up the public hearing, and I have one speaker card for Mr. Joan Nguyen.
Good evening. My name is Joe Nguyen with ASI. I'm here representing 7-Eleven. I'm here to answer 80 questions. I don't need to speak. Mr. Soto, he's been gracious to work with us, with staff, to get us to this point. We're anxious to have your approval to proceed with the project, but I'm here to answer any question you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the applicant?
Thank you.
Is this an independently owned 7-Eleven, or how is this being set up?
As with most stores, we develop it and they sell it in the open market for a franchisee.
For a
I do
franchisee.
not know who that or person may be, the
So
franchisee.
7-Eleven corporate is updating the facility, and then it'll be franchised out?
Correct.
Okay, nice, thank you.
Okay, for clarification, are you saying, so the corporation will make all the site improvements?
Oh, it's all corporate money, and then
Okay.
they themselves franchise it. It's
Then they'll
part of their
franchise it.
process, yes.
And then the new owner will be well aware of the CUP and maintaining
Absolutely.
that property up to
Yes.
standards? Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other speakers, we'll go ahead and close this public hearing for this item and bring it back to the commission for comments or a motion. Commissioner Becerra?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You mentioned the alcoves, Madam Chair, as far as places where, you know, you want to see lighting. I took a drive right by there this afternoon before coming to City Hall, and, you know, I thought about the site. I know the site very well, and I thought, well, you know, the way it's set up, it's a great place for people to kind of hang out outside the view of the windows from the actual market itself. And wouldn't you know it, there was actually one person on the north side, one person on the south side. On the north side, it looked like they may or may not have had a bottle, really wasn't sure. I was trying to turn on to Bristol. And on the south side, the guy just kind of like he was hanging out, really not sure what it was he was doing. I would like to, you know, throw out to my colleagues the idea of maybe having, since we're talking about, I think staff had mentioned that there was going to be some reconstruction of that trash enclosure, maybe bringing the fence line up closer to the front of the building so that we could limit the access to that area along the side there.
We could definitely look at that. The only thing about moving the fence line forward in that area, it may impact access to the trash enclosure, but we can work with the applicant to see if that's something that's feasible and still allows for accessibility to that trash enclosure.
Well, I mean, if the commission would indulge me, I would like to make it a condition, not something to explore, but rather to implement. And another issue that I have with the site right now is the landscaping is terrible. It all looks like something that, you know, might have grown up as weeds at one point and now is passed as kind of some sort of ground cover. And I'd like to, again, ask my colleagues to entertain the idea of requiring maybe like drought tolerant planting or something of that sort. And the reason being is, as many of you have seen, I think, you know, staff had sent out a notice that showed that we had actually won an award for the work being done along Bristol for the drought tolerant plantings along there. And we know that that's going to be working its way north along Bristol up towards Bristol and Memory. So it might be something to kind of head off at the pass and incorporate into the site. I'd like to hear feedback from my colleagues, but those are two things that I would definitely like to see possibly included in any potential approval of this project.
Commissioner, if I may, the landscape improvements is part of the development project review approval, and it's one of the conditions of approval listed as condition 1. So that was listed in development project review. The dead, dying vegetation all be replanted.
But it didn't specify as to what it would be replanted, correct?
It would have to meet the current drought tolerant standards that the city implemented.
Okay, but which is what, 35% I think it was?
We have a new ordinance, I think, that was adopted a little less than a year ago, and it's water efficiency standards, so they have to meet all the criteria listed in there.
Right, but I'm saying as far, because I mean, in theory, they could put some turf in there and whatnot. I mean, it doesn't have to be 100%. And again, I'm not saying it has to be, I'm just throwing it out, but what is the percentage?
The percentages mostly apply to residential. These are separate standards that apply to commercial projects. So one of the options would be drought tolerant style or xeriscape style, like the ones you were mentioning. They would have the option, just as long as they meet those thresholds that are established in the water efficiency ordinance.
Okay, well, right now it looks like they're meeting it in the sense that it's not putting any water out there, that's for sure. So hopefully we'll improve that. Thank you.
Commissioner Alderman?
Yeah, I agree at least 50% with Commissioner Becerra. I think that the drought tolerant plants is helpful if that's what the code requires. I don't know what it requires offhand. I'm a little concerned about the wall only because I'm not sure what's capable, and I don't know if it's possible for us to legislate that from here. So I'd be comfortable letting staff take care of that, but obviously the other commissioners can opine on that.
Commissioner Gardner?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I agree with Commissioner Becerra trying to have a for safety concerns and stuff around the corner. I don't think we should design it though for them. I think probably you have to study the site. You know, is it going to impact any sight lines, pulling in and out of the parking lot, and the trash enclosures are going to work or not? You know, but to get the project even through the police department, I think it has to bring up the lighting to a certain level. So it probably there's probably decent lighting on that side. I don't know what. So it wasn't clear how you wanted to extend the wall. That's all, and how we can, you know, how we can make that happen as a condition.
I think on the north side, to answer your question, on the north side, I think what we could do is probably go 90 degrees from the existing block wall towards the corner of the building.
Thank you.
So this is memory lane up there, so maybe you do 90 degrees going to that corner, you don't impact any sight lines. Maybe down here where you've got the trash enclosure, maybe you set back just along here, just so you don't have folks camping out back in here. Because again, today I did witness 2 folks on each of the respective corners.
So what would happen after there? Would be just no man's land?
Well, I mean, currently, you've got a gigantic no man's land right back here as well.
Yeah.
But I think the idea for me is just, I mean, you've already got this wasted space just by virtue of the site design. We definitely don't want to get into building design at this point, but this would at least minimize and mitigate any sort of opportunity for folks to camp out and hang out in there and do God knows what.
I think I kind of personally like the landscape back there more than just more no man's land, but.
I just like
I
those
mean,
people
and
hanging out back there. That's awesome.
have video cameras to see them hanging out, I don't know.
Commissioner Bauer?
Is it a possibility maybe doing landscaping in those recesses?
In those
Because-
triangular areas?
Yeah.
I think that's what it's calling out.
Yeah, those areas are proposed to be landscaped.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great place for folks to hide in the landscaping.
Well, currently it's asphalt?
Currently, it's landscaping, but kind of sparse and some dead and dying.
Just like grass.
Like dirt,
Dead
and some
grass.
dead grass.
So I like what
Currently.
Commissioner Becerra is saying about, I mean, that's, you invite, in certain areas you invite, that sort of activity that we don't want in the center, and if we can head it off and stave it off in some manner, I think we should.
Well, if I may interject on this one of the things that might be difficult with the proposal that you're talking about is police like to be able to see into the site and out of the site. Is there, and I do believe we have a representative from the police department. There is, in addition, into the site, so that may block the view into the site if they're coming up Bristol. So that may be problematic if you're bringing the wall out in that direction. So if you're coming up and across. The other issue is there is a requirement for closed circuit cameras throughout the site. And they must meet all of our minimum lighting standards just in the code. So the police have put in these requirements, including adoption of a security plan and monitoring monitoring after 6 months impacts of the use on the site. So the police do have in their condition of approval separate security conditions that do address these sorts of issues.
Any other comments? The only thing I would be concerned with is, well, is the being that we're going to approve 24 hours, if we don't do a very good job of making sure that either there's security cameras there or there's a fence there, that we don't prevent people from loitering in those areas, in the middle of the night, and having maybe greater access to the adjacent neighbors to the property. I would also be concerned that if we did put some kind of fencing, that we wouldn't also attract graffiti artists. So at the same time, I don't have an objection. I would want to make sure that we put in some kind of materials that prevent that from happening as well.
Isn't there, that neighborhood, Casa de Santiago, has an 8-foot wall right now that surrounds the entire neighborhood from entryway to entryway, and it goes right behind behind the proposed property. So I mean,
They're protected.
it's protected. I mean, I don't know what it's 6 foot or 8 foot, but
I think in this area, it's a little lower. It's about 6 feet. And the 7-Eleven project would propose increasing it to 8 feet along,
for Casa de Santiago's, the wall between.
right, the wall between the residential property to the south and then the site and then the residential property to the west and the site.
The neighborhood is aware of it, and they've been.
Correct. I met with the property owner that owns the property to the south of the site. She had some concerns about noise and possible lighting, and then when she saw that the 8-foot-high wall was going to be constructed as part of this project, she seemed to support it and said it would also help block out some of the light that they get from the Shell across the street.
Well, and Madam Chair, I would definitely support, if we're gonna have the fence come forward, to put some sort of landscaping, maybe some ivy or some vines in the front that would serve as a deterrent to any graffiti along there and, you know, soften the edge there and make it look attractive.
I'm just a little nervous about you putting that as a condition if it's not actually feasible with the trash enclosure.
Okay.
That's my only concern, if you can't meet the condition.
Well, on the north side of the property, there's definitely no concern over a trash enclosure. Well, both north and south, but I understand what staff is saying as far as, and maybe that, if my colleagues will indulge me in that, maybe that's a condition, is that the wall per staff on the south side is subject to access to the trash enclosure, and then on the north side, we do it 90 degrees to the existing, or new wall that'll be installed to the edge of the building. That won't block any line of sight for any folks that are traveling eastbound on Memory Lane.
Commissioner McLaughlin.
When you're talking about north side and south side, you're talking about on the laundromat side?
Yes.
Correct.
As the north
Do
would
we
be the
even- Is that
laundromat.
even a consideration in this proposal?
I think it's for the entire property, the
The
whole
whole
project.
property? But the
Like-
7-Eleven is only gonna be occupied,
In the B unit.
The 24 hours is only for the 7-Eleven.
right, but I'm just asking the question, there's a laundromat next door,
Yes, there is a laundromat.
and that's staying.
Yes.
Yes.
So is the property to the right, if you're facing the laundromat, you're to the right of the laundromat, is that part of the consideration for tonight's proposal?
You can consider the site improvements on that for the entire site. Yes, you may.
That's fine. That's my clarification.
Well, the use would impact the whole site. It's not that it would isolate itself just to the space.
Commissioner
One
Eldred?
last comment as to the ivy. I think if the applicant can plant that and it can grow, and my concern right now is only that it's asphalt, although asphalt can be broken, but it needs someplace to grow. I think having it as a graffiti deterrent is fine if it can grow there.
I think the area that we're looking at is currently landscaping, so if that ends up being part of the conditions of approval, I think it would be an area that can be planted.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Becerra?
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt a resolution approving CUP number 2016-12 with the additional conditions that the north fence go 90 degrees from the wall between the existing residential and the north corner of the building. And then on the south side, that the wall be moved up to be flush with the consideration of access to the new trash enclosure, and that landscaping be planted to mask the wall to deter any graffiti.
You have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any other discussion items?
I'll just
Commissioner.
make the point that if that wall's not possible, I'll be voting no only because I don't know if that wall's possible. That's not, if you're willing to accept an amendment, if possible, we don't know that. Then
Well, that's what I'm saying, is for staff to make it so that the trash enclosure is accessible. So the wall would be subject to accessibility of the trash enclosure on the south side.
Okay, so I guess I'm a little confused. I thought your motion was to move the wall forward
Right.
okay, so is that what it is?
The wall's being moved forward from where it is now, but it'll be moved forward up enough to abut the trash enclosure, subject to accessibility per staff.
Okay, so, yeah, so I didn't hear the subject to accessibility, but if that's part of the motion, then that's fine.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, I didn't hear those words.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with the new changes. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna go to item number 3, which on the agenda is listed as item number 1. That's the public hearing for conditional use permit 2016-32.
This matter we're going to have continued. I've looked into it. The city attorney has a pending criminal case against the property owner, and there are other administrative citations that are going to be issued to the property owner. So at this time, I'd like to continue it to a date uncertain.
All right, Madam Chair, if I may, I'll make a motion to continue the item to a date uncertain.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion and a second to continue this item indefinitely. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. That was nice and easy and fast. Okay, we're moving on to item number 4, and that is the public hearing for Regional Plan Sign Program 2016-02. Staff will now make a presentation on the item.
Yes, thank you very much again, Madam Chairman. Planning Commissioners, this final item this evening here is for a new sign program for Hutton Center down at Main and MacArthur in Santa Ana. What they're asking for this evening here is Jeff Sherman and as well as the property managers are to install a variety of wall, freestanding, pylon, directionals, and one single digital sign out within the Hutton Center area. The application requires approval of a regional plan sign program by this commission. Little quick background on the project. You may recall 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, that the commission and council adopted a new ordinance that amended our sign code and allowed these unique destination points, focal points in the city to apply for the special sign programs. And what the sign programs did, it allows them to exceed what's allowed by code. And I'll go over that in a little more detail in a few minutes. But the sign programs allow for certain types of uses, automobile dealerships, which we've approved one in the past, regional attractions, Main Place Mall, and this one here is also a regional commercial center because it is a mixed-use area bigger than 15 acres in size. So this is a regional commercial center, and therefore they are eligible to apply for a sign program. Here's a site. Ignore that first bullet point. It's actually all zoned SD76. We've changed that a few years ago. It's that whole master plan area there. And it's surrounded by a variety of uses, industrial, commercial, residential, and even a freeway there to the side. So, and again, this is the Hutton Center area, which at one time we were calling it MacArthur Place South. Here's an aerial view here, and what you can see, this is looking south of the project there. The two buildings there are, these two are the Essex Towers. You've got two Hutton Center right here, two Hutton Center, which is the retail pad. You got a couple of office buildings over here. You got 2 more office buildings back here, which are on Sandpoint. You've got the Marriott Hotel right over here. And then you got additional office buildings just right here in the background. So as you can see, it's a mixed-use area there. And here's another aerial looking west, looking east from Main Street. And those 2 buildings here, again, are the 2 on Sandpoint Avenue. And then here's your 5 and 6 Hutton Center right there. And then you got the 2 residential twin towers there. And then you have a hotel here as well. So that's Hutton Center. Here's a site plan of what they want to do here for the signs, for the wall signs. And as you can see here, all those office buildings there have these red little tags, which means they want to put additional wall signs up on the upper level, which is where the high visibility locations are for the major tenants. Current code allows you to put 2 signs up on the height there. What they're asking for in this program is I'm going to put 4 signs per building. And if you take a look at the buildings, you can see the shapes. They're really odd shapes. They're not just rectangular buildings for the most part. And they get all these different kinds of angles and plays in the building, which makes it hard to place signage on there. So we're looking here for this evening to put in 2 additional signs per office building. These are office buildings only. And here's some examples of what signs are up there now, but this is what you're going to be seeing up there on these buildings. And these are called major building ID signs, and they go up on the top level of the buildings. The site plan here shows you what their freestanding signs are going to be, and the freestanding signs include the center ID signs, as well as tenant IDs. This also includes directional signs, park here, park there, no parking, as well as legal signs, they call them, tow away signs, short-term parking, that kind of thing. So those are all the comprehensive signs. As what you can see here, and you see some photographs in a minute, they're all pretty much uniform comprehensive signs tied into one singular theme. So for example, you've got a couple of signs here. They're going to be their major center ID signs. Here's what's out there right now, the single sign here in the upper left-hand corner, Hutton Center. This is what you see out there right now. What they're proposing to do is something more vertical, putting a taller sign here. This one here is about 18 feet tall. And there'll be two of those signs, one at Sandpoint and one at MacArthur Place. Here's an example of a sign of a building sign. Of a major building sign right here. And each one's a little bit different when you go out there. And so what they're looking to do is to uniform the signs and make them more consistent. And the sign to the right, which you'll see, is an example of what they're trying to do for all those buildings as well. And these signs are allowed to be 7 foot tall. They're looking to go 10 foot tall. Hence, the sign program today gives them the ability to waiver from those code provisions. Then the final sign here that they're looking for is a single digital sign. We've approved 3 other ones, well, 4 signs. We approved one for the Key dealership, which was a 60-foot tall sign. We approved one for McFadden Place, a little bit north of here, up the 55 freeway. That's a 60-foot high sign. And then we approved 2 for the main place mall, 80 feet high. This one here is only going to be 31 feet tall. And it'll be located right there on the 55 freeway, right near the 5 Hutton Center. So if I can go back real quick to the site plan, it's going to be located right, there we go, right here. The sign right there is where the sign's going to be located. So that's the single digital sign. So going through the analysis here, the sign's consistent and compatible with the center itself, as well as with our intent and what the sign code is requiring them or mandating them to do, which is make some signs in uniformity, be consistent, be in scale with the development out there. The digital sign itself there is going to be consistent and comply with all of our standards. We have lighting standards, locational standards, response within 24 hours if we get any complaints. It's going to meet all those requirements there. It's going to be located in a situation where it's not near any type of residential, any type of other type of incompatible land use. It's going to be off the 55 freeway, and we'll meet all the Caltrans requirements as well. And then all this whole sign package that was put together is really helping to ensure that Hutton Center stays very competitive and remains marketable in the area there. A little bit older center, so looking to rebrand it and clean it up and freshen it up, and the signs are one of the first steps they're looking to do. They're going to come back in and do some additional landscape improvements there in the future. But the signage is one of those steps that they're looking to do to improve this overall area here. And with that, the request before you this evening is to approve the plan sign program as conditioned. That concludes the presentation. I can answer any questions. I do want to mention there is one gentleman here who wrote the email that you have in front of you, I believe, correct? I also had a conversation this afternoon with the chairman of the Sandpoint neighborhood, and he had no concerns with the sign program as proposed. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Vince. Any questions, staff? Commissioner Becerra?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I forget what we called it, the one sign, the digital reader sign?
Yes, I'll go back to that, yes.
There you go. So all I'm seeing on there is just kind of text versus say like what we approved for the Main Place Mall where they've got like more of a, I guess, graphics enabled board. Is this one not going to have the same, I don't know if the right word is capacity or caliber?
It will be. It'll be the same type of current digital technology that the Main Place Mall has.
So in other words, like if they wanted to hypothetically do picture or something
Yes,
like that?
yes.
Oh, okay.
It'll be current. This is this placeholder for them right now.
Okay.
They're a little bit different than the malls, you know. They're not really selling products. They're selling more tenants.
Sure.
So they don't need all that flashy.
Okay.
But it will be, yes, same. It'll be current and modern.
Perfect. Thank you.
I'm going to ask Commissioner McLaughlin, then I'll come back.
Hours of operation for this sign?
For this digital sign?
The digital?
We don't have any conditions attached to it. I'm sure they're open. I've had discussions with the applicant. I'm sure they're open to putting some conditions. For the Kia dealership, we closed, I think it was 7 a.m., no, 5 a.m.
It was
5 a.m., 6 a.m. till, I think it was 11 p.m.
Yeah.
It was dark from after.
Even though there's no residential there, where that sign is located as you described it, there is a hotel there.
There is
The old tree is right there.
right there, and then the Marriott just.
You know, frankly, there's not far from there, but there is residents that can be seen through there. So, you know, taking those two things into consideration, if it's a 24-hour scenario, I'm not inclined to say that that's a
Sure.
good situation. If it's something that's timed like the rest of them have been timed out, I think that could be more palatable.
Okay. We can have a discussion with the applicant. Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Alderete?
That was the same comment, but one additional comment is, yeah, you stole my thunder. The 31 feet, how did that get determined? Is that just sort
That's
of
something they put together.
based on the
Yeah.
size? Okay.
This is not really the retail market they're trying to
Right.
gather, like the car dealerships and the mall, so they didn't need as big as a prominent sign.
Right.
So it's a little more, yeah.
Commissioner Bowe?
The comment that we received in the email from Steve Hardy references the, yes, but I wanted to ask Vince, he references 8 frame type signs. Do you know, where are
Yes,
those?
yeah, the Mark has some signs out there, the newest residential project out there. They have a couple signs, and they've been referred to code enforcement for action.
Oh, they have, okay.
Yes, they have.
Is that is part of the center?
Yes, they are subject to the CCNRs for the overall Hutton Center. You may recall about a year and a half ago when the Mark opened up, the property manager had rights to their color scheme, so they had to change some of the colors a little bit because of the rights they had. So yes, they are subject to the rules and regulations of Hutton Center.
Well, can't we, as a part of this, require you said there's infractions already that have been cited?
They've been, yeah, well, they haven't been cited yet. They've been referred to code enforcement. It takes a few days to get them someone out there, but they're aware of the situation. It's a separate property. It's part of the whole umbrella, but it's a separate owner of that building, and we're going to take enforcement on that owner individually. They will comply at the end of the day. They have to. They don't have any, there's no waivers of these A-frame signs in this sign program at all.
Well, I mean, can't we require as a part of this that they come into compliance?
Well, it's already a code requirement. They have to. It's the law. They're illegal. So putting the condition on there is just duplicating what the law already says.
Well, I mean, I know code enforcement sometimes has problems, and it can take years sometimes to bring them into compliance. I mean, couldn't we require that that they come into compliance before, or as a condition of this approval?
Sure. This is probably a few months down the road from getting enacted. They still got to go through plant design and the signs, get in the plant check, and then get the sign fabricated. So this is not going to go up tomorrow. So there's some time there, but we can put that condition in there. But I just want to assure you that it's already the law that they can't have these A-frame signs, so that will be addressed. It is being addressed.
I mean, they're a good corporate, I imagine they're a good corporate citizen, and they're going to come into compliance. But, I mean, we know from other examples, code enforcement, sometimes takes years to.
Yeah.
bring
Well,
stuff
let me work my magic. I have a good relationship with the line companies. I'll give them a call tomorrow and see what I can do about getting it done this week.
All right, very good.
Commissioner Gardner, did you have a question? No. Commissioner Nadeau?
I have a question. Actually, I'm assuming that the tenants are happy about the proposed signage around there?
Yes, Carolyn Killian, the property manager, is out sick today, but before she applied for this, I got assurances from her that she had got the buy-off of the association, all the property owners in there, so yes.
So my question would be, are these tenants going to be charged to be on the tenant monument, or is it free of charge to them?
Those signs, the only one they could possibly charge, it would be this one here. This sign right here is going to be for each individual tenant of the building, and typically part of their lease agreement is that they get signage automatically on the signs. So those are for each individual building. The 2 entry signs, just generic Hutton Center, there's no tenants there. So if anything, this sign would be for sale for the tenants. And again, maybe Mr. Sherman may have some additional, the applicant there, the sign company rep may have some additional background on that. But normally with the mall, what they did is the mall sold digital space to the different tenants of the mall.
Thanks, Vince.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and open up the public hearing, and I have 3 speaker cards, so I will call each one up. And just a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak at the podium, and the lights will reflect the time that when the yellow light goes on, that means it's a warning. When the red light turns on, that means your 3 minutes is up. Okay, first up is Garrick Bat. Did I say that right?
evening, everyone. I'm just here representing the sign company. Mr. Sherman is the person who wrote the plan over the last, say, 5 years with Carolyn Killian of Bercher Anderson. So I'm just available to answer questions if you have questions for me. But Mr. Sherman's been a representative to discuss the plan itself.
Great, thanks so much. Okay, Mr. Jeff Sherman?
As stated, I'm just here to answer questions. I did prepare the plan, so anything specific, I can answer.
Any questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you. Okay, Steve Hardy?
Good evening, and thank you for hearing me today. My name is Steve Hardy. I'm a resident that lives approximately a quarter of a mile from the proposed sign. My greatest concern is the digital sign. And between me and the digital sign is the Mark, which is a residential facility, and the Essex Towers. So this is a residential type area. And I respectfully stand opposed to the digital sign approval. Aside from, the closest sign we have is the one off of Edinger, but that is several blocks of commercial real estate all around there, car dealerships, et cetera. To the west of the 55, aside from a narrow corridor, this is a residential neighborhood. Hold on. And this area is already heavily impacted in terms of the commercialization from this complex, and very, very much so from the traffic. Currently, it can take more than 15 minutes to make it about 2 blocks from the freeway off-ramp to Main and MacArthur. The purpose of this type of signage is to be very visible, and living just like in less than a quarter of a mile from here, as a homeowner, it's not something I want, is to have that sign being very, very visible. And as they said, this is not a retail space, so the digital signage isn't going to be advertising those businesses there. So I'm guessing that they do just want to use it to rent out to make money, which I approve of that for them. But this would be at the cost of our local residents because it will be increasing traffic, distraction. One of my biggest concerns is the Main and MacArthur intersection already has horrific accidents on a very, very regular basis. And so I believe that another distraction will cause more concerns. I am now available and open for any questions or concerns that you guys would like to address towards me.
Any questions?
Hey,
Commissioner McLaughlin?
I'm going to go back to Vince and say, is there an electronic signage proposal for Main and MacArthur?
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
Is part of this signage proposal, do we have a electronic sign on the Main and MacArthur side?
No, we don't. This is the one off the 55 and
One on the 55.
southeast part of that property.
Which is on the other side of the water.
Yes.
Other side of the water.
Here's
By
the
the
map,
double
yes. Let me get the cursor to work. There we go. Yeah, the sign's right here, and Main Street is right over here. So you've got several multi-story buildings separated. You got these buildings here, the 7-story hotel. You got 8 to 10 stories for these 2 office towers. 5 stories of the residential that Mr. Hardy talked about. And then you got the sampling neighborhood, which is all here in the white area. So yes, you do have a buffer between, you've also got the lake, you got the office tower here that separates it from the Nexus towers. The sign's oriented at the way it's angled, it's directed more towards the freeway visibility and not towards the interior of the park.
Thanks. Hang on, so if there's no questions for Hardy, I'm going to go ahead and close
I
the.
would like to clarify. There is a visual corridor from our complex where we can see all the way to the 55. I have not been given the specifics of where the sign will be, but I do know that from angles we can see all the way to the 55 from where we are. And then my concern is people driving by, seeing their nice advertisement, and then deciding to check it out on their phone as they go through the Main and MacArthur intersection, again making this intersection even more dangerous and impeding traffic even more.
Yeah, you want to respond to his comment?
I'm trying to, I understand what's being stated, I'm just trying to get the clarification on this because it's still my understanding that the electronic digital sign is going to be on the 55 freeway on the other side of the water from the DoubleTree, where the DoubleTree is. So it's probably about 1,000 yards from the residential area that's on the other side of Main Street.
I don't believe it's that far, and I do believe that will still have a significant impact on the residents living in my neighborhood.
Madam Chair?
Okay.
I
Commissioner
apologize, I'm unclear. Where exactly do you live?
I live in the main attraction complex, which is directly behind the Little Onion.
Correct, so it's on the west side of Main, south of MacArthur?
Yes.
Okay. And you're saying you have a direct line of sight?
If we take about just a couple steps, we can see all the way to there, and then we have two-story units that we can see the freeway.
Well, and Vince, if I might ask, so I think you might have already said this, so the sign is gonna be, I mean, I'm assuming it's not oriented to anybody within the complex, it's oriented to
The freeway.
traffic.
Correct.
So if I'm standing where you're describing, would I even be really able to see, I mean, other than maybe like some light emitting, I wouldn't even know what's on the sign per se, correct?
I have not been given the specifications on where it will be. I do know the sign on Edinger is incredibly visible, it's incredibly bright, and then just as a homeowner in that area, it is not something that I would like in my area, and I do not believe it'll help like my property values, et cetera.
Okay.
So I believe Mr. Hardy's referring to the auto mall sign,
Yeah,
which is double the,
I mean, what you're saying, the automobile sign.
That is the only real example I have of a sign of this type.
Well, I mean, you can also use the Kia that's off of the 5.
I was just using the closest that is
Yeah, I mean,
right
but
next
those,
to us.
but those two signs, I mean, those,
And they're in a vast area of commercial property.
right.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy.
Thank you very much for hearing me.
If I might, this sign is 31 feet tall. The DoubleTree Inn is, I think 26, 27 feet taller than this sign. I would dare say that that's gonna block most of the view from most of the angle if you see. Also, because the sign is a blade sign, that is, in effect, it's designed like this. From Main Street, you'll see this edge. You won't see that, you won't see that. If you follow my drift. The light will be emitted forward and backward, up the 55 freeway and down the 55 freeway. So I hope it won't represent any kind of an issue for Mr. Hardy and the rest of his neighborhood.
But in some respect, it's LED, so it can be directed anyway.
Actually, no, it's a flat stationary sign.
It's gonna be a flat screen.
It's a flat sign. It is not, it emits light forward and backward only.
Yeah.
But it doesn't move, and the orientation of the sign is toward the 55.
No, I understand, but you can, as you design the sign, you can actually direct the light to some degree. Yeah, correct,
Forward and
right?
backward.
You can, yeah, forward, I'm not, you can deflect the angle of the light so that it flashes out towards the highway versus towards the residential, all right?
Vince, it might
That's
be
LED.
possible, if you could go back to the design also, there is a larger section on the upright of the sign, which is non-illuminated, that is
Right.
between the light emitting area and the residential area.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with
That's
that.
what I mean right there.
There's a static, you have a static signage on the top, and then you have the LED there.
Yes,
All-
that's correct.
All I'm referring to is that LED can be directed, and the answer was
Yes,
yes,
that's
it can be
correct.
directed. So it can be directed out towards the highway and not towards the residence.
Yes, sir.
That's
Which is
all
our
I'm trying
objective.
That's all I'm trying to get to.
Wonderful.
All right.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, just to further emphasize, so, because I think Commissioner McLaughlin had asked earlier about the LED lights coming into the hotel. If it's geared towards the 55, both north and south, are we gonna see any light going into any of our patrons into the DoubleTree, into their rooms?
It could be seen from the DoubleTree.
Yeah.
Could be seen, but I'm saying, like, in other words, I'm not gonna be kept up at 11 at night because it's big bright lights coming in my,
No, you shouldn't. I would imagine that the DoubleTree would have visibility for it, but it's a matter of talking to the people at Berkshire Anderson, making sure they understand that they have to be a good neighbor with use of the sidewalk. I don't think that the time gap was considered beforehand by our client, but I'm sure she's amenable to this.
okay.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and, if no one else like to speak from the public, we're gonna close the public hearing and bring it back.
If I may, before we close it, if I add a question?
Oh, we can still have questions amongst us and staff, so,
Is
is that right? That's correct.
If I may, Vince,
Okay.
normally on the signs, the larger signs, there's a light study.
Mhm.
And we don't have that in this one.
because they haven't got the final details of the sign yet. But that is a requirement as well, that it can't bleed out past a certain distance. I think it's 0.3. There is a light requirement on it. So as it goes out, it diffuses, correct. And it's same thing. No, but I'm saying same thing, it was mandatory of Kia and the mall and every place else. It's the light analysis. And then a light test once the sign's installed to be sure that it's not exceeding the requirements.
So we need to know do we know the exact location of where the sign is gonna be, or that's?
Yeah, that's what they've got there, in that drawing, in that site plan is the location they have proposed. The exact, it could be shift a couple of feet either way. It's this sign right here.
Okay, all right.
So it could go a couple of feet depending on what's in the ground, where they can, put the foundation in. So. Thank you.
Any other questions, staff? Okay. Well, I will entertain a motion, or if anyone has any questions or any feedback, any comments. Commissioner Gardner?
I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the regional plan sign program number 2016-02 and strategic plan number 3,2 as conditioned, as it's presented.
I have a motion. I have a second.
Wait, yeah, where's the second one coming from?
He just read the whole thing.
I just read the whole thing.
Oh, okay. All right, I was like.
Maybe I didn't need that part. I didn't need that part. I was just trying to confuse you guys.
Well played. Vince, do you want to say?
Just to clarify, are we going to add a condition regarding the hours of operation? I'd like to.
That's an excellent point.
I'd like to.
Somebody
What
needs
now?
to-
Commissioner Goffin, would you like to make a second under?
No.
make a
No,
second change?
With the provision that the hours of operation be understood.
Well, we have an issue, he's made the motion.
So you had a condition for the hours of operation?
That was my discussion earlier. There's
Yeah, I would agree to that, to
Okay.
add that in there.
So what are the
Yeah.
hours?
I don't know. No, it was 11 p.m. shut off?
I think it was, I thought it was 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. was the hours of operation.
Yeah, but after 11 p.m. it was off, yeah, I think that's a good idea. You said you mentioned that it was amenable to the management or not necessarily?
Can I ask, do you mean that the LED board itself has to be turned off or the entire sign?
I think, was it the LED
Yeah,
board?
the LED.
Just the
The
board.
digital,
So the name-
digital
The
component.
name can be, it's not gonna bother anybody, but
No.
the board is where most of the light would come through.
Yeah.
Correct.
I think I'm sure that Carolyn would be more than happy to make that.
You think the Hutton Center part itself would be okay,
Yeah,
illuminated?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I would think so too. So you're good with the amendment?
So, yes, I'm good with those amendments.
I'm good with the second.
Okay.
Okay, I got a motion and a second, so just to clarify, so the motion is to adopt the resolution approving regional sign program 2016-2 as conditioned, with an additional condition that the hours of operation for the digital component of the 31-foot sign is 6 a.m. to 11 p.m.,
Correct.
7 days a week.
That's the motion.
LED display.
Is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
the board.
I just, did anyone have any comments after that? Motion second? I had a few comments. I just want, Ms. Hardy, I believe that with the lighting requirements that are currently in place, that there are, like Vince was saying, they're gonna be tested out to make sure that there's not a lighting impact during those hours where it will operate that would create a distraction. I think that's the main components too, is it's not too bright to cause a distraction, so that's already in place under the current ordinance. And then secondly, that it wouldn't be an imposition on anybody that would be adjacent to that property.
Another comment too. I didn't mean
Commissioner
to
Gardner?
interrupt you, but it's also very nice looking graphics, the design itself. It's really nice, crisp,
I'd
really
like to
great
echo-
looking sign.
I'd like to echo Commissioner Gartner's comments. I think, I like the design, it's very sleek.
Yeah, it's
And
great.
I like the fact that you guys are gonna be, uniforming the signs in that area, making them uniform, excuse me. It really, I live near there, I go through there a lot, so I think it's a welcome addition. So thank you for what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's great.
With that and the comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. So we're going to move on to, and I think, the work study session, and Candia, did you want to speak regarding that?
We would respectfully request that you continue the work-study session until October 24th. The staff member from the Public Works Department is not here today.
So do I have a, you need a motion? on that?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, so work study session is being continued to October 24th. Okay, on to absences. And do we need to make any kind of amendment for Commissioner Bauer? Awesome. Thank you for joining us. And we're going to comments. Do we have any planning manager updates?
I sent an article to you this with your packet. It was just some interesting reading about just about general meetings and that kind of thing. And I hope that you enjoy those kind of things. And if you ever want to have any questions on them, feel free to give me a call. But other than that.
Thank you. Please. Thanks. Okay, we'll move on to planning commissioner comments. We'll start on my left. Commissioner Mendoza?
I just want to say that I'm happy to be here. I know I'm going to learn a lot from you guys. Phil, I know that you asked great questions, so you guys, I know I'm going to learn a lot, so I'm happy to be here again.
Commissioner McLaughlin?
Yeah, two things. One is that, Candia, it was interesting, but in following up with the discussion that we had about that 17th property, and you mentioned that the code enforcement was actually following up on the gambling establishment that is in that facility. Our neighborhood association had a discussion afterwards with the police chief, the police person that's representing our neighborhood, and they had no idea that that was happening in that facility. And I'm just curious as to how, code enforcement's working on a certain level of activity in a facility such as, an illegal gambling site, and yet PD is not in tune with that whole situation. Just seemed kind of odd. And would like to see if there's any reason or any follow-up that we could have in that respect.
I'll forward that information to code enforcement and let PD know that there's a discrepancy, a lack of communication between the two.
There may be people inside of PD that
Right.
are aware of this, but the individual that was
But
representing
they're
our
representing
neighborhood
neighborhood.
didn't have that
Right.
understanding, and I thought that was
Right.
kind of odd and unique. And that brings me to the second question I had was, we had the report probably, 6 months ago from Commander Graminsky on crime and the crime statistics, and we were told that we could get an update that would be for this past year, and that was going to be like in April of this year, and we're now in September going in October, and we haven't heard anything about that report.
Yeah, I think the last time I talked to him was early summer.
That was the second update.
Yeah.
The first time it was April. I remember that
I'll check with him.
And then it was going to be the early summer, and now we're into early fall, heading into early winter. So if we could find out some information on that and find out where we are with that, that'd be great. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bauer?
Yeah, on that same project that you're referencing, I want to say to the fellow commissioners, I'm really excited about the prospect that we are utilizing our powers in a really constructive manner and in a way that I think is getting a lot of attention and the attention that's needed in that area in this particular project. But I'd like to see us do this more and more. I think we all sort of are getting a sense of the power that we have when it comes to these sort of issues. So that's all I had.
Thank you. Commissioner Alderete?
No comments.
Commissioner Gardner?
Yeah, I wasn't here last week when Commissioner Mendoza joined us, so welcome. It's Good to have you on board. And I also wanted to let you know I will not be here on October 10th meeting. I'll be in Oregon at a family wedding, so I'll miss that. So just telling you ahead of time. That's it.
No comment?
Commissioner Becerra? I also did not have any comments tonight, but in addition to Commissioner Gardner, will be out of town on the 10th, so I was going to ask Commissioner Bauer to fill in for me. So hopefully the rest of you will be here. Cover? Assist Commissioner Bauer. Other than that, we're going to adjourn for the night. Thank you.